Hi, I'm Stefanie Wainwright. I'm a wife, a mom, a business owner, and my life is chaotic all the time. So I created this podcast to help you find the funny, the good, while navigating through the chaos. This is Chaotic Compass Podcast.
What is up? Stephanie here, Chaotic Compass. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate you. Today we're going to just jump right into, I swear, suck with this mic. I don't know why I'm struggling with this mic. Okay. Today making sure it's recording because the other episode didn't. So making sure we are recording. We're going to jump right into today's topic. Do you ever feel like you don't have a role model? Right? I know that I don't, and I wanted to touch on that subject because I feel like I've got a bunch of people that are in my life that I don't want to be. And it's like a thing as far as not having a role model and how do you get that and the process behind that. Okay, so I found this article on thoughtcatalog.com, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But as far as things you do because you didn't grow up with the best role models, right? And I know that's me because I didn't really have role model figures in my life. As far as I had a bunch of people in my life, but I didn't have really anybody really except for my grandmother, but she was a stay-at-home mom and never really had a job, and that wasn't going to be me. And so it was like I didn't really have the role model that I wanted to aspire to, that I looked up to, that I wanted to be in my life. And so I had a lot of influential people, nothing against that. But so if you don't have any real role models in your life, your typical personality or your traits that show up, and this is from this website, this isn't me, this is from a website. So you are more independent. I'm the firstborn, so that's naturally what I am, but I'm more independent than most. I have trust issues, but I've also had a lot of things that have made the trust issues in my life worse than they should be. So I overthink things. Again, I come from a long line of people that have anxiety in their lives, and that's something that I've picked up to be able to cope with things. But this is a natural trait of somebody that didn't have a role model. You don't open up. I typically don't. If I do, it's usually a few drinks in and it all comes out and I regret it. The next thing is you're harsh on yourself. You're super hard on yourself. And that's something that I've always been on. You cannot criticize me more than I criticize myself. And so if you want to come at me, come at me. I've already layered that up. So you can't say anything worse than what I've already thought in my head. So with that being said, it's like, okay, you don't have a role model in your life. Well, what do you do? And I've seen a lot of what not to do. And I call that the anti-role model. And that might not be a thing. I think it's a thing, but technically it is a thing because I found it as like they classified it as this, but as far as I don't think it's a societal norm as far as you have to be something that you have been around and therefore and so anyways, so an anti-role model is a negative behaviors influenced you to practice opposite behaviors to avoid negative outcomes. A anti-role model is negative behaviors that influence you to practice opposite behaviors to avoid negative outcomes. I have seen so much of that in my life, okay, as far as what not to be. But I was raised as far as both of my parents had somebody that they kind of took after in their life. My mom, not so much, but she kind of got into that field because of her mom. My mom has always been in food service, as far as either being in a manager role at a fast food restaurant or running a bed and breakfast or running restaurants. And that's always been her background, because her mom owned, well, her parents owned a restaurant in the town we grew up in, and that was something that she was around all the time. And so that makes sense that she would want to get into that because she saw that as something that could be beneficial to her. Um, my dad, he kind of hopped around from job to job for a little while there until I kind of came into the picture. But he became a crane operator, and his dad was a crane operator. And so, it just seemed right. My dad was in the shipyard for a while. That's something that's big around here. And that's what my dad's brother, my uncle, did for his whole entire career. As soon as he graduated high school, he went to the shipyard and he retired in the shipyard, which seems crazy to me, to have your whole adulthood clocking in and clocking out at the same place. But it is what it is, and I don't shoot my uncle down for that. But my dad did crane operating for 30 something years. And so he got that from my grandfather. And my grandfather was a crane operator, amongst other things. But, that was something that my dad saw as a good role model, as a good, this will be good in the long term. And so I don't want to be a crane operator. And I tried food service. I worked with my mom for like one day, and that didn't work out. But I worked at McDonald's. I worked at Chick-fil-A. And it's hard. It's fast. It's a lot, but that's not for me. And I know that now. I tried that, but it's not for me. So what do you do when you have all of these, you're independent, you have trust issues, you overthink everything, all of these things because you didn't have good role models in your life? And so, but for me, I'm looking at what not to do, right? My mom was a job hopper. She was always in food industry, but she would job hop until, she would job hop from, this place to this place because the mesh didn't work out. There's 1,000 reasons I can tell you of all the things. She'd come home and I quit my job because of this. And so I saw myself as, I don't want to be a job hopper. I don't want to leave a job before I am financially good. She would leave a job without having something to fall back on, like without another one in its place. She would leave a job, not work, and then jump right into a job because she was backed up on her bills. And so I learned I don't want to do that to my family. I don't want to be the burden in the family. If I'm going to leave a job, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to line up a job next. I'm going to put my 2 weeks in and I'm going to do it right. Okay. And that's how I've done it every single time, I think, except for like once, but it is what it is. So as far as seeing what not to be, I've had not only in my mother, but with companies that I've worked for. I have seen what a boss looks like that I don't want to be. I don't want to be overbearing and micromanaging. I don't want to be that. I've seen that at jobs that I've worked at. I don't want to be come in and set the tone for the day. I want to be inspiring. I want to say, hey, this is my problem, but these are the things you're doing great. So keep doing these things, but let's work on this. I want to be this. So I've seen what not to do in their workplace because of these people. An ex-boss, my father-in-law, as far as this is how it's been done for 20 years and this is how it should be done. And it's like, just because it's been done like that for so long doesn't necessarily means it's going to work in the future. And so my other example is that when you get into a workplace and you're trying to figure out your vibe, and you come to work every day just trying to figure it out, and the tone of the day is already set to be negative because your employer is pushing negative, like today's going to suck, today's going to be the worst, like, and it's not just like Monday, it's literally every day. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. I am that person sometimes, as far as, but I'm not going to push that on my employees. I don't want them to hear this side. No, I will say that I have been like, okay, so I don't know if there's going to be a next season. And that was just me being frank. Like, we're getting through this year and we're going to have to see how this year goes in order to be. And that's every year in the industry that I'm in, because it's literally make it or break it. And we've had some big break it season last year, 2019. There's been some break it seasons, and it's like, you have to be able to look at it as a whole, and I have a hard time not being a realist in that situation. I'm not trying to paint all the doom and gloom, but I'm trying to be real. With that being said, how do you, without having a role model in your life, figure out who to pull from to be able to, okay, so this is what I want to aspire to, right? It's really hard in this day and age to be able to find somebody, be like, that's actually like not, not fictitious, that is actually a real person that's close to your circle that you can hang out with and get drinks with, because everybody's super competitive right now. For me, if you want to learn from me, and I can tell you what to do and not to do, and I can share my business stories with your business stories, sure. There's this chick that I hang out with sometimes at our local bar, and her husband have they manage I think it's a roofing company, and they have several, it's a blended family as well. And so I can super relate to her, even though her industry is totally separate and her children are much older. It's nice to be able to talk about being in business and having several children and raising some children that aren't your own. That's interesting for me. Is she a role model? Not necessarily, because she's older and her kids are older, and I'm trying to take pieces of what she does and kind of feed into that. And so that's my first thing. It's like, okay, so there's a chamber of commerce around you. We have one here in our local municipality with York County. There's a bigger one that heads up all of them with Hampton Roads. Chamber of Commerce. Find a chamber of commerce that is in your area, and they always will have meet and greets. They're going to be able to put you into their little society, and that's how you're going to meet other business people. And this is obviously talking about business, but okay, so you want to be a runner. Okay, so you need to I don't want to be a runner, and I will never be a runner, and it is what it is, but you need to find a group of runners. And how do you do that? Okay, so where do runners train? At the track of the high school. There's trails at the parks. There's groups on Facebook. You've got to find where you want to be. Like, okay, so picture yourself in how many ever years it takes you to get to and you are that person. So, and you want to mentor the next generation. Okay, so where are you going to be? Find those places. That sounds super fucking vague, but I don't know how to break that down granularly, because I'm talking about business more so than anything. And I'll kind of come back to other examples of how to find those people. But looking at people, the anti-role models, I've learned from their mistakes. That's what I've taken from being a part of somebody that I don't want to be like them. I don't want to run a business like them, because I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want to be super just I don't want to have a vibe that's going to bring everybody down by me walking into the room. But like, oh gosh, Stefanie showed up today. And it's like, I don't want that. I want people, and and there's gonna be days where it's like I don't want everybody to be like, "Yay, Stephanie!" I'm real, but I don't want to be the harsh tone that just walks in and fucks everything up for everybody. That's kind of where I'm at. So I've learned from my mistake, I've learned from other people's mistakes. I've learned from, and not necessarily mistakes. I've learned from watching them, how they operate. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person, period. Like, this is what I aspire to be. So you look at something and you're like, oh my God, like, okay, 2 plus 3 is not 4. Okay, so you've learned 2 plus 3 is not 4. And that's what I'm trying to apply. Okay, well, how do you get to 4? And there's multiple ways to get to 4. There's a couple of ways to get to 4. But you just have to look at it in a holistic point of view. I think I'm getting kind of drawn out. All right, let's take a break. Okay, let's take a break from Stefanie talking for a hot minute. Okay, so I did not get a chance to go down to my favorite shop, Early Birds, this week. Shout out to Early Birds. I love you guys so much, but I have not been able to take a break to get down to Pocosin to pick up new alcohol. And so I told my husband that tonight, and he was like, I got you, sis. Let me make you. He didn't call me sis. I just added that in because if he called me sis, that'd be fucking weird. But I got you. Let me make you a drink. And he's like, the only catch is that you have to you have to tell everybody this made from love. Like, what the fuck? Okay, all right. So it's my go-to this time of the year. Vodka, tonic, lemon juice, a little bit of sugar. My take on a lemon drop, but it's, massive. It's super easy to make, and it's summer vibes for sure. Vodka, summer, Captain Morgan, winter. So here we go. Cheers to that. Made with love. That's extra in my Paxton cup. We're not going to shout out to those guys. Anyways, all right. So I look a lot to social media. Okay. I know. Right? I want to be thin. I need to be like them. Like, I want my hair to look like that. No. Okay. I took it into real terms. I want to find real people that operate real businesses. I'm not looking to the Kardashians. Okay. I'm looking at real people that are operating real businesses. And so I'm looking at small businesses from around the world, well, more around the United States, and looking how they're operating. And for me, it's a big deal. I want to see your failures. I want to hear about how you handled a situation. And it's really cool to hear when some of these people are talking about, yeah, we fucked up, and here's how we fucked up, and here's how we handled it. It's like we were in the fetal position and we cried in the kitchen for a hot fucking minute, but we got up and we responded to the thousands of emails and telling us how we fucked up. And so I'm here for that. I want to know, like, okay, it's hard, but you got back up, and this is how you got up, and this is how you faced it. And that's what I'm looking for, because every day is hard. Every fucking day is hard in a business. Every day is hard in real life, like, especially post-pandemic. It's not even post-pandemic. Like, are we post-pandemic? I don't know. But, every day is hard, whether you've got 1,000 kids or you've got 1,000 pets, or whether it's just you and, you don't have anybody, or you've got a husband that's needy as mine, or whatever your situation looks like. It's hard. I feel you. Sis. I feel you, one bro in the back. Like, I get it. Okay. Because no matter how it looks, it feels daunting. It feels hard to get up the next day, especially when you don't know how. And that's what I'm looking for, is I want to see people that are in the same situations that I am, not necessarily exactly, because nobody's going to live it exactly, but I want to see people that are in same situations and how they dealt with it. That's what I'm looking for. And how they dealt with it might not necessarily be exactly how I deal with it, but it could be inspiring. Yes, I will most likely be in the fetal position and I'm gonna have a hot cry. Okay, that's just me. And because after the pandemic, I cannot, for some fucking reason, get my shit together. It could literally be we're out of printer paper and I'm like, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. I don't know why I'm like that. I have PTSD and I'm trying my best, okay? But I'm being real with you. And if I could be a role model for you, that's the thing. I get in the fetal position and I have a cry and I let it out. I let the cry out because I am so pissed off that one more thing has happened to me. It sucks. It's hard. Life is hard. And it's just why? But I get back up. Okay, let me get on Amazon and let's order some more printer paper. It's crazy to listen to some of my friends their problems, because it's like, oh man, yeah, I remember those days. They have young kids, or they're purchasing a house. I remember some of those things, and I can give as much insight as I can, but I know it's not going to be enough because they've got to go through it. They have to go through it. I can't, hold their hand through the whole process. Be like, yeah, the first 2 years of both of my kids' lives were miserable. Neither one of them slept through the night, and I have no idea why I procreated another one. It was brutal. Brutal. Not being able to sleep and having to get up to be able to function the next day in a normal job, I have no idea. I think that's why I'm kind of wired to not sleep now. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It is what it is. Look at the reasons why you are not your greatest self. Like, what do you aspire to be, right? You have to take that into account. Like, okay, so you want to be an awesome business person that's making X number of dollars a year. You want to own this many rental properties by 5 years. You want to have a animal shelter because you just want to help all of the dogs and cats and animals in the area you live in. You want to be able to foster every single child that you can, to be able to show them they are loved and they have a purpose in this life, and they shouldn't have to go through life thinking that they are unwanted. Like, there is a purpose for you. What is your purpose? That's something you're going to have to dive into deeper, but you're going to have to take a look into that and figure out, okay, so I don't have any role models. Like, neither one of my parents were business owners, and I talked about that in the other episode. Like, to listen to my mom rant on about how I should get out of business is like, I'm going to need you to I love you and I respect your opinion mostly, but shut the fuck up, respectfully. Like, I can only listen to people that are in business and their business opinions about business, right? I gave the example of, okay, you're a runner. Well, you're not going to listen to your 90-year-old great grandmother about how running is bad on your knees and she's never ran a day in her life. Like, let's be realistic here. You're going to start following, runners online. I'm not talking about, Olympians. Maybe they're inspiring on their social media too, but you have to take it in perspective. I think that's why I've kind of sheltered my kids from being on social media or watching social media, because it's like, I don't want them to think that that's real life, right? Like, I'm trying to find, because I don't have anybody in my small circle that I can talk to, relate to, and be able to hear about how they operate. I have to go to social media, but I'm intelligent enough to, or I think I'm intelligent enough to be able to look at it and look at it holistically and be like, okay, they're bullshitting. Like, nobody had a smile on their face throughout the pandemic. Like, I know at least one time you were crying in your kitchen floor. I know that. like, because I did that. And so if that's what you want to say, that's what makes you feel better. I'm not going to make myself feel bad because I was in the kitchen floor crying in the pandemic and trying to figure out what the fuck we were going to do with our businesses, with our kids, with our lives. I hear you, but I'm not listening to you, I guess, if that makes sense. So you take it in and you pick out what's pertinent. You pick out the pieces that make sense, that applies to your life. And you take them and you run with them. You still probably will have to tweak it, but I hope that you can take what I'm saying and apply that into your life. I know that this was mainly about business, but I am so brutally honest on this podcast about so many different things. You want to have multiple kids? Okay, well, here's how it's going to go. You're more than likely just going to start numbering them because you can't call them by their appropriate name, and it's fine. Multiple kids are hard, but multiple kids bring me so much joy, and I love the chaos in our house. Having multiple businesses with a scatterbrained husband is beyond stressful, but I'm able to take off a random Tuesday without feeling guilty because my husband can compensate for where I'm not able to fill in, because we run the business and we can set the hours. He can take off a couple of days to be able to fill in for, we're part of a yacht club, and he did a dinner meeting, and he took off a few days to be able to do that, and he has the ability to do that. And so we set our own schedule, even though I work more hours now than I did when I was in a real job, but I'm able to take the phone with me when I get my oil change. I'm able to take the phone with me when I, have to drive down to the boat. The phone is with me all the time. So even though I'm on the phone, am I actually on the phone 12 hours a day? No. And so the flexibility that I have incorporated is something that I have learned mainly with pandemic. Like, why are you having to be tied to a desk? Why do you have to be in one spot to do your job? This phone can be portable. This job can be remote. Ryan and I last October went and glamped for a weekend for our anniversary, and I was able to take the phone and I answered the phone when we were gone, And so that's just something that I've found of things I can take and grow with. So what are some things that you want to be able to learn from? Like, what are some things that you want to be able to grow with? I'm here for you. Like, this is me just being brutally honest, like a Dear Abby column. Like, I'm just talking, and if you want to talk about a subject, let's talk about it. Let me hear what you want to know. I may be able to give you the best advice in the world, or I may be the anti-role model on what not to do in your life. So come at me, message me on my website. I have a contact form on there, or you can contact me on Instagram or Facebook, Chaotic Compass Podcast. And I would love to be able to help you if I can. And if I can't, I might be able to point you in a better way. That's something that I pride myself on with a couple of businesses that we have, as far as if I don't know, I know somebody that does. So thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. I appreciate you. I am trying my best here. Like, I know my freaking YouTube page sucks, okay? But I'm trying my best to post on a regular basis. And at least tonight that I didn't unplug myself and it actually still is recording, to have to look over there just to make sure. But I'm getting it. I'm trying to get in a groove. I'm human. It is what it is. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate all of your love and support. If you really loved today's episode, you should subscribe. And if you subscribe, then you get notifications of when my next episode launches. So Another way to be super awesome would be to leave a rating and review or recommend it to your friends and family. If you're wicked awesome, you've already done all three. Another way to keep up with me and my crazy family is check out my website at chaoticcompass.com, and I do blog and other stuff there. So I appreciate everything for you guys. I do this for you, so keep it up, because the more you subscribe, the more I do.